Imagine the case of Charlie Hebdo, someone who painted the face of Muslims as those who shout, as those who are really bad. Imagine his office getting bombed. Imagine people getting killed. Imagine societal havoc just because of someone who wants to use satires to make himself harm. We believe that there is an inherent harm in the use of satires. When we use satires, we believe that the only thing it does to people is inflict harm. Rather than self-expression, what we are actually doing is inflicting harm to the people who use satires, which is why we believe that satires only promote inherent harm to the people and moreover to the people with them and to society. What we will do is we will make it a soft criminal offense for people to be using satirical media. What we will do is we will have these websites or these publications or whatsoever be punished for their use of these satires that are inflicting harm to themselves. What they are doing what government wants to ban is inflicting harm to themselves and exposing their target to be a very bad, to be a very dumb picture of what the person truly is. This is why I go to my first argument. My first argument is that that satires only promote inherent harm to the people. They only promote personal harm to the people. So what does this mean? So what does this mean is that they just inflict harm to themselves. They don't really do anything rather than inflict harm to themselves.
Point.
Yeah.
Do you find any difference between satire and black propaganda?
Yes, we find that the difference between satire, what we see the difference between satire and black propaganda is that black propaganda is what the politicians use to be able to gain what politicians use to gain the support of the people through their campaign. But rather, satires is not only limited to politics, but actually satires is more of also like in the case of Charlie Hebdo, who is criticizing the Muslims, who is instilling harm to themselves by letting Muslims get triggered. Moving on to my second argument, satires do not allow people to be integrated to society. Because what satires do is that they want, is what satires do is the author's way to uninclude himself and not be inclusive to society. What he's doing is separating himself by criticizing and painting a bad picture of others to society. This is very wrong. Because he didn't integrate himself well if he will criticize other people. So in
exactly is the author or the artist isolating himself from society by creating satire?
He's isolating himself from society because he doesn't give he doesn't he's putting a picture of the Muslims as, for example, in the case of Charlie Hebdo, he is putting the Muslims as a bad picture. How is he integrating himself into society if he is not accepting cultural aspects of the Muslims? He is actually putting a bad face into the Muslims. So, which is why we believe that satires aren't, it's just inflicting personal harm. And basically, satires are not promoting a good society, but rather allowing the individual to inflict personal harm and not be able not inflict personal harm and not be able inflict personal harm, and they are unable to accomplish what they actually want to do. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, opening government enters this debate by trying to tell us that satire is only here to promote harm and negative opinions, and that they want to apply a soft ban to satire, and that applying this soft ban will somehow decrease the amount of satire, or make it so that satire just stops existing completely. Now, their third problem is that they only stick to one example. This is completely wrong because there's several forms of satire, and you can't just generalize satire into one example, which is why in my speech I'm going to go through several examples of satire. But before that, let's go through my counter prompt. It's going to be that we will allow and regulate satire to continue as long as it's being regulated on the right platforms. I'm going to further elaborate on what exactly I mean by the right platforms later on. But first of all, what exactly are our burdens here that we need to answer on the opposition side? It's that we need to answer which side best values the power of opinions, and also which side best empowers discourse between people. Now, let's go back to what I said a while ago about what exactly I mean by being regulated on the right platforms. If some people in this room don't know, recently there was a statue made of Donald Trump called "The King Has No Balls" that was displayed across several parks around America, and these were immediately taken down. This can be in fact considered satire, and this is the good kind of satire. But the problem, it was where it was being portrayed in public parks where children can see it. And yes, we do concede that this is wrong, but at the same time we believe that satire like this is okay, but it should be portrayed on proper platforms and maybe not in a public park where it's open for everyone to see. Now let's move on to my rebuttal, which is about what opening government was saying about how someone making satire somehow worsens their social integration. This is wrong. Why? Because society is built on opinions, and making satire, making satirical material shows that you actually have your own opinion to show to the rest of the world. So this doesn't harm social integration, but it actually does the exact opposite, because it shows to the rest of the world that you actually do have an opinion to show to them about a particular topic. Now let's go on to my first argument, which is about how satire makes people listen. And I have two examples for this, which I'm going to do a brief rundown over. How exactly does satire make people listen? Our first example is going to be in the 2016 elections in the US with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I'm pretty sure that before that the previous elections weren't that interesting, and a lot of people didn't actually pay much attention to it. Now, why exactly is it that a lot of people are paying so much attention to the rivalry between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in this year's election? It's because they're using satirical material against each other. Hillary Clinton is using things such as memes and whatnot, while Donald Trump is using ways to offend Hillary and other people who have tried to go against him in earlier parts of the election. So really, though satire might not be the most positive thing, what's important is that it actually does make people listen. Let's go over my second example, which is something I'm pretty sure everyone in this room knows. It's Harambe. Now, let's talk about Harambe for a minute. There's a lot of memes circulating around the internet about stuff like how Harambe died for our sins, blah blah blah. But a few months, and Harambe died actually like, let's say, May. Why is it that only now he's becoming so popular and well known across the internet? It's because people have started making memes and satirical material about him. It's because of satire that people have become more and more aware that establishments like zoos lack in actual safety regulations to make sure that kids don't fall into the safety enclosure of the zoo. So really, satire has a lot of benefits. It makes people actually aware of what's going on around the world. Now let's go on to my second argument, which is about how satire empowers having opinions in society. Now, the reason why satire empowers having opinions is because satire inspires you to look at the world from a different viewpoint, whether it be a very exaggerative or a very comedic or a very offensive viewpoint. It's still a different viewpoint, which therefore allows for more opinions, therefore more worldviews, therefore more and more people get to talk about different things and how they perceive it, which then leads to much more discourse, meaning that society ends up being much stronger and fulfills its role of being a society that binds people together in the first place. So really, we fulfill this burden of having societal integration much better than opening government does by having satire present. Now let's quickly compare what exactly happens in our best and worst case and what happens in their best and worst case. What exactly is opening government's frame? Their frame is that they're simply going to apply a soft ban to satire. So they're going to be like, oh, you can't do that, or we're going to charge you, blah blah blah. While here, we're going to completely regulate satire as long as you're showing it on the correct media platform. Now, what exactly happens in their best case? In their best case, for some reason, these people who create satirical material would for some reason follow this soft ban, and everything goes according to plan, except opinions are lessened, and less people would be interested in things such as the news because they can't see it from viewpoints that they actually want to see. Now, their worst case is that the soft ban is completely useless, no one will follow it, and at the end of the day, their case ends up being completely useless. Now, what exactly happens in our best case and worst case? Well, on either case, satire still happens, and it's really just a matter of whether or not people would actually want to use this satirical material responsibly and know where and when it should be shown and what audience it appeals to. Thank you.
say that opposition really did not exactly understand our case. We said we would put the soft ban because they explained it for us. We would want to regulate satire. That's why we just put the soft ban. That's why we're not going hard. We're trying to be soft because we know that although there is a harm, there is also good. So in our case, we want to be soft. We want opinions to be heard, but in some cases where opinions could actually have harms, we want to stop this. And that's why we put the soft ban. In our soft ban, we aim to make offensive satire that actually hurts people, and satire that causes personal, third party, and integration to society harms to be taken out and to be penalized. On government side, we want satire to be at its best. To be regulated. In the sense that no harmful satire will remain. So first, the some rebuttals. First of all, they said that the argument of being soft is bad. But weren't they just supporting it when they said that we are best to regulate satire? Therefore, to regulate it softly, they wanted regulation. So we tried. So on our side, we want soft crimes in these. These are very similar to basic crimes like internet piracy. These are very minimal and these are very technical, but in the sense that they can still cause harm. That's why we're choosing to go on the soft side and just give call these as soft crimes. No, call these as soft crimes at the end of the day. If you think of it, it's the best move for it's the best move for everyone because if we're soft on government side, being soft allows regulation and also proper punishment. And thus the fulfillment of the CJS or the criminal justice system. We get the least people wanting to commit harmful satires and more people who want to express their opinions in better ways. Satires are not always the best way to show opinions. So there's some arguments. First, I would like to say I would like to express my first argument that satire causes a lot of third-party harm. Satire might please voters, be good for elections. But if you think of it, let's go back to other cases. Let's go to, let's say, social media satires. When you have false news on social media, that's very, very common. Who here hasn't seen false news on social media? That's very common. How many people are misinformed? When you get these, Charlie, I'd go back to my Prime Minister, you get people talking about drawing these Muslims and portraying them very badly. Okay, what does everybody think now? That Muslims are all like this. Yes, this is opinion, but there's a very thin line between self-expression and how you're already harming people. It's now becoming a deterrent. It doesn't help people to express their opinions in the best way. Yes, it may be the most blunt way of expressing your opinion. It may be the most beautiful way, but there are better ways for them to express it. You can just, put it in better words. You need not draw them. You need not make fun of them. We're not, to extend my Prime Minister's argument, we're not having social integration. Because if we hate each other, we hate these Muslims, we hate these, for their case, political parties, we're not going to have our society united as one. In Gov's case today, we're going to prove how banning satires to at least a soft crime point is going to end up having society have the best kinds of opinion and have the most happy society, and at the end of the line have the most united society. So to continue. Back on the case of integration to society, to add to what I've said, moreover, just being to the opposition, they say these satires are uniting people who vote for the elections. But at the end of the line, you notice that these satires are actually harming people. Once you make fun of one side, the other side doesn't get happy. Is this really making society united? When you make fun of these, Muslims, when you make fun of these people who are of minorities, are you actually solving problems? Instead, you're leading to more conflict in society. There won't be social integration once you put satires. Thus, in government side, we have the model of having a soft crime punishment on this. To solve this, we will penalize those that are we will make it a crime for those making for those making offensive ones, and to the best of our extent, try to regulate these using using our crime system, our criminal justice system. We will make it in our government's model a crime to have these satire, especially if they're offensive. It offends someone. It's bad, It may make you happy. It may make one side happy. But at the end of the day, you're not getting social integration because there's another side that's getting detriment from this. So let's compare our models. Let me fix the comparison we made on models. On our model, we have, we make it a soft crime, therefore we get regulation because we still have opinion. And at the end of the line, we get more social integration of the people and we get less harm. Because not only do less publishers get bombed, not only do less people get harmed for having misconceptions due to these satires, like let's say for Charlie Hebdo, if you've been reading their books every time, there's a very thin line between opinion and satire, between reality and opinion. Sorry. So people could mistake these Muslims as all being like this, all being those wearing turbans, those people bombing buildings, and it just causes a lot of harm, both personal and third party. The publishers get bombed, the publishers get harmed, and the third party people get misconcepted into thinking this, and it ends up with no social integration. So in our case, by putting a soft ban on this, we're lessening the people who actually get harmed from this. We're lessening the people who get harmed in society, and at the end of the day, we're allowed. And in our model, we suggest people to put their opinions in other ways, such as by making, let's take for example social media. Instead of making those satirical things, they could rather spend their time just putting opinions straight to the point. You don't have to make fun of people when you make opinions. So, while in their case, if we were to keep satire, for example, if we were still to put satire in their case, it'll end up actually causing harm, which is actually causing harm and actually being a detriment to social integration. In their case, we're not getting to solve problems. We're actually making more. People won't be united if we just make fun of each other. And that's basically, if you look at the big picture here in opening, that's what we picture satire as. At the end of the day, we're just criticizing each other. That's a satire's goal. You think that's helpful? And that's why we are proud to...
government is clearly confused on what the role and goal of satire is in the first place. They define satire as something that is meant to destroy the image of someone and insult them just for the sake of insulting them, or because of racism, because of discrimination, or whatever. We believe that in our side, this begs a basic question. What is the role and goal of satire? We believe that what they're describing is not satire, but basically black propaganda, which I raised in my point earlier to the Prime Minister, and what he basically failed to respond to by saying that yes, there is a difference between satire and black propaganda, but they say that they're both meant to to break the image of a person. We concede that it's going to be insulting at times, but I'm going to talk about in my arguments later why insult is acceptable and how retaining satire is going to still celebrate the free speech and the free opinion and can be a great propensity for a change. Before I move on to my arguments, a few rebuttals. Firstly, they said that they will regulate satire that's bad in their model. Firstly, they never actually defined what bad satire actually is, but because they've been describing it as something like it insults people, it creates discrimination, I'm going to assume they're talking about black propaganda. But even though banning it will only cause satire to go unchecked, it will become wilder in their side. Like for example, instead of painting, creating a funny picture of Harambe dying, there will be cases of vandalism in Cincinnati Zoo, for example, because they can express these in proper platforms such as social media, and therefore that's where their case completely falls. Second, they says that satire is not the most effective way to spread opinions or whatever. We believe that yes, satire may not be the most effective way to spread opinions, but nevertheless, it's still pretty effective if a funny picture that depicts a social issue is spread and liked by millions and millions of people over Facebook. And secondly, why are you saying that when you're saying that a painting depicting a Muslim, for example, is something that will make people hate Muslims already immediately when they're presented? Thirdly, they say that satire creates conflict in society, but we believe in our side that this doesn't create conflict because discourse is in conflict. Satire creates discourse, and any opinion expressed anyway can create propensity for discourse or conflict, like what they like to express it anyway. So clearly, their arguments never really stand. So in my arguments, I'm going to answer a basic question. When is insult acceptable? Because the main problem that they pose to us is like we show free speech, but we never really do anything about it. We never really fix problems. We only destroy the image of people, and no change really happens. So for my first argument, I'm going to talk about why discourse is very important, and this merits a basic question. How do we highlight these issues and bring them into light? Have I already told you that when we have satire, these are spread usually in social media or whatever, and therefore they're able to be brought into light, and people are able to be aware of them. Like what he said, Harambe is only brought into light once the memes and the news or whatever has spread everywhere. So when we have these issues brought to light, we have discourse. And why is discourse very important? Because when we have discourse, we can have a discussion. Everyone can share their opinions and their thoughts about a certain issue, for example. And this one can be a factor into changing whatever issue that may be brought into light because of satire. And we can see that even though satire can be unacceptable at times because it's really insulting, that brings me to my second argument. But before I move on, any points? No. Moving on. When is insult acceptable? We believe that insult and ridicule in our side can be a greater propensity for change and reform. Because we believe that in our side, when we allow satire to happen, when we allow satire that is spread all around social media to happen, we are creating more pressure on these people involved in these issues to change or reform whatever they're doing wrong. And of course, they're doing something wrong, or else whatever they're doing won't be an issue for satire in the first case. Much more when it's something that is widely spread through social media, as I said, in the form of memes or whatever. It creates pressure into these people to solve these problems or to change something, reform something in society, because it's spread all around and people see it as something that is unacceptable, and they're able to discuss this. Why? Because it's brought into light, they're able to discuss it in the end. Lastly, I'm going to compare our models. I told you already why in our side we celebrate discourse and free speech and opinions better than their side, and why satire can go unchecked when they ban it altogether. Because we believe that insults and all of these opinions is like an endemic reality that will exist in no matter side. But the question really is, are we going to allow it to be regulated and checked by the government, or are we going to push it down and pretend and make it not exist anymore? Because as I told you earlier, when these things go unchecked, they become bad. A lot of laws will be broken just so they can create lasting impression, just so they can create something that just so they can bring an issue to light. Like as I said, for example, because they can't post something on social media because it's considered satire in their side, in our side we're allowing this to happen. And because they're not allowed to post it in their side, they're going to do something else, such as, for example, hack emails or vandalize or whatever. So you can clearly see that in our side we will celebrate discourse and free speech better, that in our side we're allowing issues to be brought to light and still be discussed. And that is why we win this debate. Thank you.
I, in closing government, feel very infuriated with the deadlock at opening because they failed to debate and fulfill their burdens at the end of the day. What is the main question in this debate? The question is, when do we ban something and when does the state support that ban? They said that ban should happen by regulating it, but they said that regulation should be done with penalization and criminalization. They labeled it as a soft ban, but they're going to say, oh, people will be penalized or something. But we believe that's a hard ban. That was just that was simply like a mislabelization that was given to them by opening opposition. This is infuriating because they both agreed that satires had inherent arms and had inherent good uses, but they were both agreeing that this regulation should happen in both sides. Therefore, the debate never happened at opening. And I find it purely infuriating that we, in closing, have to start the debate from scratch. So let's start with a weird and random characterization that opening opposition gave to you. Apparently, satire is a form of discourse. Satire is a form to spread opinions and whatever. And when it becomes offensive, it becomes black propaganda. But clearly, he said, as the leader of the opposition, that there are many types of satire. But the only type of satire he gave you was Donald Trump with no balls and Donald Trump versus Hillary. We don't see that how that shows the diversity of satires in their side. He fails to even accept that satires can at times be offensive. He said that they're not anymore satires, they're already black propaganda. But clearly he said that satires can be offensive. They're not being consistent with their definitions, Madam and Mr. Chair. We feel that in this debate, we have to first characterize what satire is, and that's going to be coming from closing government. Satire has a lot of types. It can be offensive, but what we can know is that in all forms of satire, essentially, it relies on sarcasm and irony to make it fun. It's for humor. That's why sites like The Onion are there, because you make fun of news that is, for example, like Harambe or whatever, which didn't really contribute anything. Because whether or not Harambe exists, we don't see the contribution of that in this debate, right? So, let me look. So, what they were trying to say is that discourse and opinions are important. We believe that to be true. We want to co-opt that value. Discourse and opinions are important, but what we want is for it not to happen in a platform where it can be offensive, where it can, for example, be not true, because simply satire relies on sarcasm and irony. It in essence isn't true. It in essence is not true, but it's based off of something that's true, which currently is exactly why I'm going to argue this debate. Is first, we want to push for the security of the individuals to live in a world where they won't be afraid, they won't be degraded, and they won't be oppressed. And second is that we think that this act can be oppressive because we think that in a place, for example, we want a place where it's free of offense, where people can live their lives not afraid of the critical masses making fun of them through satire. We want to completely ban satire and completely fulfill the burden that what opening government failed to do, right? So first argument, security. We want a world wherein people won't feel degraded, they won't feel oppressed, and they won't feel afraid. Why is that the best interest of the state? We're going to talk about the best interest of the state because essentially, for example, when we talk about a pluralistic society where people have different values, more likely, satire is going to happen because you want to make fun of people who don't share the same values. Like for example, Donald Trump has no balls because you hate Donald Trump and you don't believe in his values. Why do we think that satire should be banned? Because simply, we don't really support Donald Trump. That's not what they're trying to say. But what we don't support is making fun of him. We don't support the medium in which they're trying to... Oh, fine, go.
even in your world, without satire, insults and mudslinging will still happen.
Hey, what they failed to characterize was that satires are inherently not constructive. That's the problem. Is they're going to make fun of Donald Trump by showing that he doesn't have balls, but they're not going to say what the problem with Donald Trump is in the first place. That's why we're trying to ban satire, because it's not constructive. That's why we think that media should be full of stuff, for example, where they're going to say the inherent problems. Straight, wherein they're not going to they're not going to engage in sarcasm and irony, so that discourse can be better upheld on our side because it's more accurate, it's more concise, and it can be easier. It can be easier. We're not banning discourse. We're not banning giving opinions. We just want to say that this should be done in a better way, and we don't think that can be done through satire because we feel that people can be scared, people can be afraid because they're going to be made fun of because of that medium. Because essentially, we think that it's the best interest of the state and the best interest of the people to live in peace with each other. Even if, for example, in a highly pluralistic society, when people still don't disagree, people can be constructive. They're going to say this is wrong because of that. That's what we're trying to improve because that's what they failed to prove in the opening debate. Second argument, this act can be oppressive because it's the best interest of the state, for example, like I said, to be free of offense. Media, because we're going to discuss what the role of media is. Media is both reflective and normative. Reflective in the sense that it shows what's happening in society. It shows what's happening in the real world. Because it's a place where discourse happens, right? That's a place where people can express themselves and those values exist in society. But what we shouldn't forget is that media is also normative. This normative value of media is exactly what we're against. Because if you're going to let that humor, that sarcasm proliferate in offensive ways, we don't think that's a good value for society to uphold and for the state to allow to proliferate. Because we think that the media should be regulated by banning satire because we want the most accurate and best way for the media to fulfill its role, which is discourse. We truly uphold that and we think that's best upheld on our side. And we're going to talk about the harms, right? For example, in satires, you evaluate the people. Like what he said, the example of Donald Trump without balls. For example, Harambe, like getting shot because a kid fell into his pen. We think that these individuals are devaluated by instead of telling them what's wrong with them, you're just going to further put them down. You're further going to isolate them in society. And simply, this thing will be popular because it's funny. We don't want that idea to proliferate. We won't want that popularity to be gained because it's funny, because it's popular. We think that's a wrong norm in society wherein we're going to actually let these things proliferate because it's offensive, because it's funny, because it's popular. We think we should be more sensitive with our discourse, and that's what we're trying to do by banning this, right? So what have I proved to you in closing government? I took the burdens, I characterized them all for you. I characterized the media, I characterized the state, and I characterized the people. And essentially, we think that the best interest of all the people, the state and the media, can be best upheld on our side because we fought for the ban that best upheld the discourse and the opinions that they so wanted to happen. And we have this debate for you, and we're going to take the semifinals or quarters. Sorry. Thank you.
I forgot everything in the sentence. The question of debate centers on the idea of should we suppress expression, opinions, and belief because of the inherent and possible harms that government is trying to say us. Furthermore, what everyone seemed to have missed in this debate was, what is the message of satire to society and why must we not ban satire because of this sad importance? Now, before I move on to my arguments, opening government focused so much on the inclusiveness, on how by making satire you are not making them included to society and preventing the integration of these individuals into society. However, I'm saying that deep down, don't we all criticize these people? And by making satire, you are simply another member of society who is willingly sharing his opinion, and you know that you may or may not be accepted. And this truly has nothing to do with integration because it is just another form of expressing your emotions and of your beliefs. Furthermore, they mentioned regulation, and we're saying that this soft penalty, it will not work because people always have this inherent desire, this inherent belief to show their opinion in the first place. And society also exists on this principle that if we ban everything that offended anyone, what would we have? We would have nothing. We would have nothing to empower critical thinking. We would have nothing to question these issues, and we would have nothing to question the current world around us. And that is why that is a very wrong argument. Now, they also focused so much on the idea of who creates this satire that they weren't able to focus on the message of the satire and the message descending to the people, to the society. And satire isn't just about informing people, it's also about empowering them to share their beliefs, empowering them because they share similar beliefs and similar cultures. Now, on to my first argument, that by banning satire, you're regulating the freedom of expression because it is their freedom to express their disdain towards others. It's their freedom to show others that they are not happy with the current government. For example, they are not happy with the way things are, or they are not happy with a certain people. And this criticizing of politics, this criticizing of the stupidity of the vices of everything in society is very important and it should be a core value simply because that by criticizing politics, you're saying that you do not simply accept everything that is given to you. You are able to have your own opinions and able to fight for what you believe in. And on local events, it is a way of saying your own interpretation of what has happened and your own belief of what should have happened. And in the first place, they kept talking about that the creator of the satire will be harmed. Well, is there no consent when you're releasing satire? Are you not aware of the possible harms that will happen if you release this satire? And furthermore, I'd like to emphasize on the word irony and exaggeration. We all know that satire isn't pure fact. There is a certain degree of exaggeration, and this is what's important because you are exaggerating your beliefs to make people aware of this, yes. You're exaggerating your opinion to make people aware, to make them see more that this problem should be noticed, that this problem should happen, because this leads to the motivation of creators that there is in fact a reason why they are creating this aside from Harambe and Donald Trump's balls, because it's not just about that. It's not just about criticizing those small things. It's about showing that you are unhappy with what is happening in the world around us. And I'd further like to emphasize that it is criticizing on the criticism of the government and of the criticism of possible events, because by criticizing the government leads us to the bigger problem of why there is yes.
Why exactly do you have to criticize the government in a way that it's sarcasm, it's exaggerated, and it's ironic?
Well, it seems that in our society today, for example in the Philippines, no matter what we release about the government, people simply cannot seem to see common sense, and they simply ignore these things because it has become a daily part of life. But by exaggerating these things, you are bringing them into light, and you're making people think more that this is in fact a true problem. And furthermore, by not banning satire, you're creating a society with freedom, a society that is open and free to criticize their government, criticize its people. And it's not just about offending people, because again, if we banned everything that offended people, we would have no discourse, we would have no opinions. Because simply because somebody believes these things does not simply mean it is correct. Furthermore, by saying that you're criticizing the government, you're empowering the people to think that maybe there is in fact something going on, maybe there is in fact something wrong with this, maybe they're doing the wrong things, maybe they're spending the wrong money, maybe they're not helping the people, and that's a problem. So how can we prevent this? Well, to be honest, we can never fully prevent people having these opinions, and that is why we should not ban it. And even if we can't fully suppress this, which we should not in fact do, that's the thing. We have to let people express their opinions because that's how society works. A society makes its decisions and opinions based on what the majority, at least in a democracy, you base your decisions on what the majority think and what you both believe. Because simply because somebody believes this does not mean that the whole society should follow it. And yes.
But if this opinion is already causing harm, then why still keep it?
Define harm.
You know, those how satirical websites get hurt by bombings, how satirical websites get, terrorized by the
I believe this is where the level of consent comes in, that when you are releasing this satire, you are aware of the message you're sending and you are aware of the possible risks you are having when you are sending this satire, because you don't expect to make an offensive art without offending anybody. That's the point. You want to enlighten people, you want them to think if whether or not they want to continue with their current beliefs. And it leads me to the reason that there's possible change if you empower these people, if you tell them that there's something wrong, that you yourself can also have the capability to express your emotions, to express your beliefs, that you are encouraging change. And why is change important? Which is something that is exclusive to our side, but we're saying that by making these people change, then you are criticizing society and changing it possibly for the better. And lastly, I'd like to reiterate that it could make you a climate of suppression. People will always feel suppressed, that they will always feel that they cannot express what they believe in. And this is so wrong because you're creating the idea that beliefs are wrong because everyone has different beliefs. You have the right to your own beliefs, and these beliefs will always clash. It's simply about finding harmony between them or acceptance without fighting each other. And I'd like to end with this note. This debate wasn't really about the integration of these artists, but about the message of the satire. It's not about making people listen, but the people themselves making their own interpretation of the satire, people themselves being empowered and making their own message. And that is why we have taken this debate.
Thank you, Member Paul.
Mr. Speaker, we believe that the actual debate started coming from closing government right. When we came up to this debate and clarified what exactly was going on, because it seemed like the opening house were already conceding to the many values that they presented, right? Because they already conceded to the fact that satire should be regulated while never really defining what a good satire is and what a harmful satire is, right? At opposition, they told you that many satires could possibly be offensive and there are many satires that could possibly be good. But never explaining and never quite giving any actual substantive evidences of these satires in existence doesn't necessarily make their argument hold much water, right? And this is exactly why we chose to, and they even pushed it to the point where discourse will never be able to occur without the existence of satires. And this is where the case of my argument, of my partner came in, right? When he discussed how exactly we were able to achieve discourse better on our side, when you have the state who imposes bans and regulations to these types of satires that can be offensive to religions, different minorities, and different groups of people, right? And this is something that has clearly been only characterized by my partner when he implicitly stated what harms and oppressions we were talking about, which is never clearly discussed by opening government, which clearly makes them undynamic and non-relevant in this debate, right? So let me go on to a few issues, right? Firstly, what is the best interest of the state? And secondly, what is the justified? And secondly, what is the role of the media and how is this connected to the best interest of the state? And lastly, what is the role of the satire really, right? Okay, let's move on to my first issue. What is the best interest of the state? Coming from this debate, we've heard that the value that the state will most prioritize on opposition side is the value of discourse, and that will only be able to be achieved when the state allows satires to come into existence, right? But we tell that this is clearly untrue. Because firstly, you have other methods for people to become aware of social events, become aware of social issues that can best make them become critical thinkers. So we think that the premise of being able, of people losing common sense coming from closing opposition, losing common sense and not being able to think critically because of the lack of satires and the lack of emphasis through irony and exaggeration, clearly does not hold much water, right? Because we have already exposed different methods where people can become more critical thinkers with more factual evidences, such as articles from the news, right? Such as television, right? Where they present it in a more critical and systematic manner, right? Which is something that is clearly, which that importance has clearly been discussed by my partner, right? When he brought about how discourse is something that we can best achieve, in this side, right? In the existence, in the other methods that we have already discussed. But more than that, we've already seen how government side places priority on the security and the safety of the citizens of their nation, right? And this is something that has only been discussed by my partner. Because he told you that there are many implications not only to the individual who belong in that being oppressed social group, but also to that, but also to the extent of those people, but also to the many detrimental effects that it has on the state itself. But let me go on and bring about my partner's issue, because he told you that we should be able to prioritize the security and the safety of these individuals who belong in certain demographics. And how does this come into importance in this debate? What everybody lacked and what everybody failed to discuss was the implication to these individuals, right? Because nobody clearly discussed how individuals feel when they see a satire that oppresses them, that places offense to them, that devalues their entire human dignity, right? That undermines their value as a human. We think that essentially this allows them from achieving the best quality of life, and that this allows them from benefiting the state, right? Because they don't allow these people to become productive anyway. Because their rights are because their right to be free from offense is something that is something that is being not protected by the state, right? But secondly, how does this actually harm the state? We tell you that it harms the state because the state isn't allowed to fulfill its original purpose. No, thank you. Original purpose to be able to protect these individuals from all forms of offense, right? And what is that purpose? We tell you that it is really unfair for the state to normalize a stigma, to normalize an act of oppression, which is furthered by satires. And this is where my partner's argument on how the role of the media is essential in this debate, right? Because the media is something that is both a normative and reflexive actor, right? When a reflexive actor clearly depicts, clearly depicts what actually happens in society and how things in society are supposed to be understood by the majority of the people who are in that country, right? And this is where the act of oppression comes in. Because when you allow satires to proliferate, you not only disallow those individuals who are being affected by that satire to receive detrimental effects, but you also make it okay for the majority of the population in that country to discriminate and to abuse and to provide oppression for those types of people, which not only makes it harder for the state to be able to cater to the needs of those individuals, but also not being able to become an inclusive state that actually fulfills its original purpose, which has only been discussed by my partner. Second issue, so I've already integrated the role of the media, right? So let's go on to the last. But before, 6, yeah.
Once again, your world is too perfect. You're saying that if we remove satire, these people are generally going to be free from oppression and stigmas. How do you respond to that?
Okay, we can see to the fact that discrimination is an endemic reality. And we think that that is something that will coexist on either side, right? And that is something that has already been responded to my partner when he said that at the very least, at the bare minimum, the state is doing something to actually disallow that discrimination from happening, right? Because when you don't do anything about a satirical depiction of Muslims or indigenous communities and stuff like that, you only further the oppression that they experience, which doesn't actually provide any relevance to your case today. Anyway, so how do we tie all of our arguments back to the issues, right? We've told you that in this debate, we've not only given you the best way where we can go up the value of discourse that opposition has really been pressing on, but secondly, you not only value that, but you also place priority on the security and the safety of the individuals who are being affected by these satirical depictions. And lastly, you best allow the state to perform its original purpose of becoming one that is inclusive and one that places priority on many individuals. And this is why ASHSA will go to the semifinal. Thank you.